whether he's conflicted or, it's a denial thing, right? Like, even if Daniel did do something, which none of us know. All I know at this point is that Daniel's not truthful, and Daniel continuously changes his story, and the things that he says in his messages are, you know, not good, and that he's really pushing some distraction tactics with the whole Malehya thing. So that's all I know, and to me, that's a lot of red flags. Now, um, you know, for somebody else who's a friend or has known that person since they were 14, that would really be hard for them to try to comprehend that that is a possibility, because your brain just doesn't want to go there. Oh, yeah, he's just like Darren. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So we answered that. So the first thing I want to do is go over to Belynda when she was on It's a Crime and Shame. And if anybody hasn't listened to this already, you can go to It's a Crime and Shame to listen to it. And I'll put that in the description after the video. After I put out the video, I usually go back in and put that information in there. So I have it timestamped so we don't have to listen to the whole important parts that I pulled out of it. All right, so we'll go to 12:30 first. The heck? All right, I just have to share screen. And there's Lily and Jack, of course, on the screen, and the boots, Lily's boots, Jack's boots, and the white backpack with the strawberries. It's sad to look at those.
When we come into the driveway, Janie was sitting on some kind of a bench thing or something in the driveway, and I can't remember who the woman was beside her. There was a policewoman standing there, and the policewoman was talking to them. We couldn't make out what she was saying until we got up closer. And Janie was really crying a lot. And this woman was saying to her, "It's okay, Mom. They're not blaming you. They just want to look in your trailer. They're not blaming you. They just need to make sure that there's nothing in the trailer." And she went on to say that there was nothing in the trailer. She didn't want them around her dog. And the policewoman told her that she was impeding an investigation and she would have to get a search warrant. And then I thought, well, we'll just continue on into the trailer. That was the only thing I found just a little strange, that I was wondering what that was all about. When I got inside the trailer and after I had hugged Malehya, I mean, I took to crying. Now, I didn't notice because I wasn't watching, but my sister stated that she noticed Malehya wasn't crying at all. She didn't have any tears, that she was very non-emotional. That after the hugging, and I stated about the woman outside. and the policewoman left. And then my sister and I headed towards the trailer. We got in the trailer. Right away, I went over and hugged Malehya. Of course, I started to break down. I guess once you reach 60, everything makes you cry now. But I hugged her, and right away, she thanked me for coming. And I noticed that her grandmother, Patty, was there. She was sitting on the couch. And I asked Malehya if she'd heard anything yet. Did they find anything yet? And she said no. I said, who are the ones outside? And she told me that was Janie, Daniel's mom, and that was Justin, Daniel's brother. But I know she said who the other one was. And like I said, for some reason, it's just gone. So I asked her, I said, what was the last time you seen the kids? Did you see them at all? And she said, no, the last time she saw them was when she put them to bed Thursday night. I said, what time did they get up? She said, between 8 and 8:30. She said, I heard them.
Okay, so what I want to point out there is, well, a couple of things. Just the fact that the Daniel's mother's attitude, like that bothers me. I can't imagine if my children were missing and my husband's mother's attitude was more concerned about herself and her trailer. And I mean, it's very, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter. Your dog doesn't matter. Take your dog, and there's even kennels around here that'll do the doggy daycare thing, or figure it out. Could Logan take the dog and take it to her? Well, I guess Logan doesn't like animals. She stated, but I mean, there's all kinds of ways around that. I can't imagine. Like, that is just so bizarre. This family really bothers me, that their mentality and the morals. It really bothers me. Kimmer says, I really hope the RCMP have a solid theory or knowledge they are working on, Nova. If not, it certainly won't look good if it goes unsolved. I know. And I just, I really hope this isn't another unsolved case. We have so many here in Pictou County. I'm going to start touching on some of them just to give people an idea. And I'm going to go way back to, gosh, I think might have been in the 70s, the first individual that I'm aware of that went missing. I mean, there's more, I'm sure, but yeah, there is a lot of unsolved cases here of missing people or unalived people in Pictou County. So, yeah. And Kimmer says, yes, that's messed up regarding Daniel's mother. And the other thing is that I want to point out is what what Belinda said Malehya said to her. So timeline wise. So she said the last time that she heard the kids was between 8 to 8:30. And we know, if you didn't hear it, I looked today on Plunder before I come on here, and she has so many audios that I couldn't find that piece, but it is on Plunder and some other channels. But I think she was the original that had it. The radio audio that states that the children were last seen. I think they said seen. I don't think they said heard at 8 o'clock. So they would go with 8 o'clock, of course, because with the children missing, they're not going to go with 8:30, because the earlier time would because they have to calculate the distance of how far the children could have gone since this time to that time. So they're not going to go with 8:30, of course. They're going to go with the earlier time, right? So that would be the last time the kids were seen or heard. So the 10 o'clock call is different. That's not, they weren't seen or heard. That's when they put the call in to state that we can't find the kids. So, and then Malehya says, and I don't know if I'm going to go back and hit play. I don't know if she said that or not. Then Malehya fell back to sleep after she heard the kids between 8 and 8:30. So that timeline lines up. So Malehya is telling Belynda the same thing that she told them when she called 911, because in the audio recordings, you'll hear them say 8 a.m. So Elora Pantone, I hope I'm saying that right, is missing from here too. In PEI, I didn't hear of that case. I'll check that. I'll look that up. Yeah, so I just wanted to show that she's telling Belynda the same timeline as she told 911. So we'll go back to this.
Playing in the other room. She goes, and I kind of drifted off to sleep. She goes, but they must have got out of the door. And I said, that's the door right there. And, I hugged her and I said, who are the ones outside? 8:30. She said, I heard them playing in the other room. She goes, and I kind of drifted off to sleep. She goes, but they must have got out of the door. And I said, that's the door right there. And she said, yes. And she opened and closed the door. It is a fairly quiet door. It's not a loud door, but I mean, it's a patio door. So unless you're kind of listening, you really don't hear patio doors open and close. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are going on about it, but you don't overly, unless your ears are tuned for it to know the door is opened up. As a parent, they should have been tuned in. Mm-hmm. So then I asked her what the kids were wearing, and she told me what they were wearing.
I wish I wish Sunny had followed up with what did she say they were wearing. But I guess we can assume it was the description that 911 had, because it was Malehya that had called. And we know that the last time she visually had eyes on them was when she put them to bed. So I guess it would have been a description of their bedtime, whatever they had on at bedtime. But again, I wanted to also point out that she confirms that the patio door was quiet. So we know that now, that confirmed that is true as well, which is what Malehya had stated in the media. So I'm just trying to figure out, because people are saying that they're both lying. I know for a fact Daniel's lying. We all do. We all saw all his message, and we're going to go through everything. But I'm trying to figure out where Malehya lied. And if you guys have an understanding of where she lied, please let me know, because I'm being very serious. I'm trying to figure out where she lied. So, all right. So we'll go on to the next part.
Storyline or the information that he's putting out there. Are you happy with it? Or are you go ahead?
Okay, so she just asked her what she thinks of what Darren is saying.
It is a good story. I think about it and I can make it make sense. I can see how it can look like it makes sense. Um, Going by the CPS, going by Malehya's marks of she's protecting Meadow from CPS. I never got a chance to ask her, was she protecting Meadow from CPS because Daniel was due to have visitation? Or was she protecting CPS because she was afraid she was going to lose Meadow? That part doesn't make sense. They gave her custody of Meadow. So I can only go with the fact that she was upset that Daniel was going to get visitation.
Right, and I believe that as well. Now, somebody had asked that, the other day. I don't know if it was you, Holly. I can't remember. And that was my thoughts as well when I had read that. I find Belynda'S very, common sense, and I consider myself to be as well. But, um and she knows Malehya. So, and that's what I took out of that as well, that, she's very fearful of, Meadow being around Daniel, which, if she's thinking the same thing I'm thinking, I wouldn't blame her.
As for Darren's story, I did like the idea. I mean, of course, finding the kids, yeah, great. And I was starting to buy it. And then I started thinking of all the original talks, of all the times Daniel had spoken, of what Malehya had said to me. And it just didn't make sense to me in the end. So I don't see it.
Okay. Appreciate that. You
And I have to agree with her as well. Belynda'S got a good head on her shoulders. And Holly, I agree. Belynda'S really the only honestly believable character in this whole situation. I believe, and I've yet to find where Malehya has been untruthful as well, and what she has said so far, which isn't a lot, but what she has said is truthful. Yeah, so Kimmery, you answered my question about where did Malehya lie. Well, if she put them in the car, she lied, but that's a big but. Yeah, and I don't believe, in my opinion, we can all have our own opinions. I'm open to them all. Like, that's why we're here, just to discuss it and try to understand what happened here. Why would this happen? How to two innocent babies? And how to prevent things like this in the future, and where are they? In the name of Lily and Jack, where are they? So, yeah, like, I can't go along with any of that at all. And I mean, I think that's completely insulting as well to the Indigenous community to say those things. Um, I I just It's such old thinking, and uh yeah, she is so classy and no nonsense, but she loves those kids so much. Yeah, I agree. Yes, down to earth. Yeah. Okay, so she's not really agreeing with what Darren has to say. Um so next part we'll go to.
Oh, because I remember when my daughter went missing once.
So were you shocked? Were you shocked on Sunday when you went back and found out, for whatever reason, that she left the property?
A part of me inside, I'm sorry, but a part of me inside died knowing she left with those babies gone. I don't know how she could do that, to be honest. I love the Malehya that I knew, but I don't know how any mother
can leave the place where her babies were. I'm only the grandmother, and I didn't want to leave at all. I wanted to stay there the whole time and sleep in a car.
Yeah,
So no,
that's
I
what
don't get that.
baffles me.
I don't get that at all. I don't get that at all. So I figured if she left, something tells me she had to have had a very, very good reason to leave.
Yeah. And I agree with her. And again, she knows Malehya, and I agree with her. And that's what I started to think and had talked about in my other videos, that I just feel there's an awful fear that's set in her that, you know, she felt she had to get out of there with the baby. And that's heartbreaking. I know. Yeah. Poor Belynda. That is just so heartbreaking. I just can't imagine. I'm going to say this as politely as I can. I have a hard time believing anyone at that house could pull off a perfect crime. I hear you. But have they? I mean, this is only 2 months down the road. And, you know, what do RCMP know that we don't know, right? You know, yeah. But I would agree with you. But yeah, we'll see. We will see. Okay, there's just a couple more parts here. The other thing she says there that struck me too, she stated, like after that part, she states that she had removed not only Daniel and his relatives from her Facebook book, but also Belynda. So I tried to understand, well, why did she remove Belynda? But now Belynda's back on, and they have a relationship, and they're talking back and forth, and we're gonna go over some of that. And you can tell that Malehya trusts her and has a good relationship with her. So I thought, why would she have done that at first? And then I thought, okay, she didn't know who to trust, in my opinion. She didn't know who to trust or what happened to those kids, Lily and Jack, her kids, and that she did that until she felt comfortable with the fact that, okay, Cody had nothing to do with this, Belynda had nothing to do with it, and then she put her back on her Facebook, and their relationship continued, but she didn't, you know, put the other family members back on. Like, I feel like she, you know, just didn't know who to trust, and wanted to be sure before she kept that communication going, in my opinion, possibly. Yes, that scares me if they did. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you don't know. They could be in the woods. I mean, there still is a small possibility that they are in the woods, but it's just hard to believe that they didn't find them, and that by now we're not smelling some smells with, you know, coming into the warmer weather. Yeah, because I don't think they would have gotten very far. And if they did get in there a little bit and hide under something, and they're not that far off the road, like, there would be smells by now, I would think. I hate to talk that way, but okay, so there's one more part here. One more part. And this is the one that really gets me. And the funny thing is, I didn't really hear anybody else talk about this. And I thought, did anybody else pick up on this, or was it just me? So we have to listen to Darren for a little bit, okay?
I don't know whether it was just memory or what it was, but I do believe his general version, and I do believe that Janie she's totally accurate.
So just listen to the time frame here.
And by the way, Sonny, you're way more concerned with timeline and everything. And I was talking to Janie today, and Janie has everything on her phone, right down to the point. And Janie wasn't actually sleeping that heavy or anything the first morning, because her Ron, her brother, had called her at 6:10 a.m. in the morning, and she heard the phone ringing and got up and never caught it. But then she called him right back at something like 6:15. And that's on her phone. So Janie was already up and stirring around a little bit when she heard Malehya come out the back door.
That was around 6:15. Right.
Exactly right.
Well, maybe that's why Malehya was out by the driveway, because she called the school at 6:18 exactly.
Malehya called the school twice, once at 6:17 and never got through, and once at 6:19. But this is what I talk about, little particulars that mean nothing to me.
Now, okay, but Daniel told me that Thursday she called the school at 6:17.
Yeah, one was Thursday, one was Friday.
Right. Friday she called the school at 6:18.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I
And
said,
I know the reception around the property. I couldn't use my phone, but if I stood out in a certain part out by her driveway, it would pick up reception. So
and
when
I'm
she
totally
was,
fine with that, because Sonny,
Oh.
yep.
So am I the only one that picked up on that? Because again, that confirms Malehya's timeline of her saying that she had called the school at those hours, and now Belynda'S confirming that you have to go out to the end of the driveway to be able to get reception to make a call. And he's saying that's when Janie was up and come out and said to Malehya, "So where are the kids?" And she said, "Oh, they're in the woods." Like it just doesn't make sense. So that would have been when Malehya was calling the school. She went out to the end of the driveway to use the phone to call the school. She wasn't putting the kids in any car, in my opinion. I'm, and I believe Belynda wholeheartedly. And she's saying she saw that. He showed her on the phone when the phone calls were made. So yeah, and she would have had to have gone out to the end of the driveway. So, but now the story is, and again, the timeline is, they're changing the timeline, because before it was a different time that she was out at the end of the driveway. Now it's at 6 something. And they constantly get caught in their lies. Like, they're changing the timeline now to when she actually was out at the driveway. But now Belynda's confirming that, well, no, that's when she would call the kids out of school, because she has to go out to the end of the driveway. But now if Belynd'a hadn't have said that, people, to me, would believe, well, that I guess people are believing the story that she put them in a car. I was thinking early on that they had tried to walk to school. I know, Holly, I did too. I wholeheartedly believed, and it was because I was believing Daniel, until Daniel started to show himself as being untruthful. And, once you start doing that, and flip-flopping and changing the timeline and changing the story and trying to make somebody else look like something and direct so much attention on this woman he supposedly loved, and her kids are gone, and you know you don't know that that's what happened. Like, the story that he's spinning, he's well, I think this is what happened, and you're going to treat her like that. If you love somebody, you don't do that, because of the fact that, well, what if you're wrong, and now you're treating this poor woman that you supposedly love like that, and her kids are gone. There's just something wrong with all of that. And no, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So again, to me, that lines up with what she's saying, the timeline. She went out to the end of the driveway to be able to get service, to call the school and call them in sick. And I know everybody says, oh my gosh, that was just too early to be calling your kids into school sick. But if you're up at that time and you have a baby, and you know that you're going to have to call them in sick because they have a cough, I would do the same thing, because I wouldn't want to have to fall asleep or have the baby fall asleep and then have to get up to call the school later and cause a stir and maybe wake up the baby if the baby's now having a good sleep, or whatever the case may be. Like, I would probably do the same thing. That's where my head goes on that. Not that she was up to anything bad, because in fact she called them in the day before at that same time, so around that same time. So it just seems to me that that's probably a time that she might have been up in the morning, possibly with the baby or even the kids, and then goes back to sleep for a nap or whatever, which I'm not agreeing with, but yeah. Hi, Mama Angie, welcome back. Yeah, so did you just arrive now, Mama, or did you hear what we had just went through? We were just playing some little spurts of Belinda from It's a Criming Shame. I know you watched that show too, so you probably heard all that, but I was just kind of pointing out some things with Malehya's timeline that actually match up. So now that I've gone through all that, I want to go over to the TikTok video. Because one thing I was curious about was, did Malehya leave before or after her interview? The one interview she did. Was that after the fight and the fight and the debrief and then Malehya left? Or was her interview prior to all of that happening? And so they talk a little bit about it in this video. I had it. Oh, there it is.
Thanks for joining us. So anyway, carry on. Cheryl, I don't know, what were you saying?
That was just it. That we left Saturday evening, not
after the
Sunday
briefing.
morning.
After the briefing on Lance.
No, it was after the altercation.
You left, but Malehya didn't.
We all left. Malehya
No.
left with her mother. I left. My sister left. My sister-in-law left. We all left at the same time.
Yes, but the altercation was before the briefing, honey.
And then there was one after, because your mother was involved in that one.
Yes, and that's when we were saying about the car. And then I don't know who came back looking for the cell phone, and we were trying to get Malehya's grandmother to leave the house. Yes. But Malehya left right after the briefing. You guys did it. Malehya left right from the briefing.
5 minutes before us, yeah.
Yeah, right after the briefing, up at the briefing. She never came back to the house.
No.
You guys
it wasn't Saturday morning that she had.
No, it was Saturday afternoon after the briefing.
It was Yeah, it was Saturday evening. I think around supper time-ish.
Yeah, after the briefing at 4:00.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And the blanket was in the garbage.
Okay, so that's about all of that I want to play. And then I want to show you this. So that confirms, like, so Malehya left between, I guess we're going to say between 4 and 5 o'clock, because one's saying, oh, around 4, and the other saying around 4:30 or whatever. But so there was 2 fights according to them. There was one before and after the briefing, but Malehya left after the briefing. So I guess the first fight was about the blanket. And the family were upset and saying, to Dan, suspecting that Daniel had done something. And so then they went to the briefing, I guess, and then that's when Malehya had the breakdown and got to the ambulance with Daniel coming behind her. And again, I feel like she just got to that ambulance because it was a safe place, because I feel like things were starting to kind of go off in her head. And this is all in my opinion, guys. And then so she left, and then I guess the other family is the other people are getting ready to leave, and then there's a discussion about the car and a fight about that as well, and the fact that Malehya's grandmother didn't want to leave, so they left there shortly after behind Malehya. So we're going to take a look at the interview. When did Malehya's have the interview? The time. So you see here, so May 3rd, so that was the day that Malehya left, at 9:44 a.m. So she had that interview. The interview was in the morning, and then the fights were later on in the late afternoon. And I guess I wanted to know that because I guess I was thinking, during that interview, where were her thoughts at that time? Was she still on, were her thoughts, if my theory is correct and the things that are in my opinion of what I see going on, was she still thinking that Daniel was being truthful, or is this after she started thinking, okay, something's wrong here, and then she had left? So the interview would have been prior to all that in the morning. It would have been prior to her, whatever happened where, her light bulb went off later on and she left. So that's all I wanted to show there. Because I was curious about that. Hi, Mama. What really bothers me the most, how do you unalive 2 kids and one parent doesn't know? Yeah, and the only thing I can think of is if that is what took place, we don't know. We have no idea, but we want to know because Lily and Jack deserve justice and answers, or to be brought back home if they're out there somewhere. And we don't want things like this to happen again or continue to happen again, or possibly, hopefully not, go unsolved. And the only thing I can think of is that she may have been in a very deep sleep because she, was up early and had called the school. So obviously she was up for some reason. If there was they were having disagreements the night before, she might have been lacking sleep. I don't believe that Daniel was, super dad to the other 2 children. I think Malehya was the one who probably did a lot of the parenting and was, could have been very tired and went into a deep sleep. And, did something happen then? Remember, Daniel's the only one that says he saw the children or he saw Lily. He didn't see Jack. So, you know, if that is the case, that, you know, that is what happened, then yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, is that she was in a very deep sleep. If Malehya knew Daniel hurt the kids, she would have told the RCMP. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, after she left that day, you know, what were her conversations like with RCMP? Well, we won't know, because she's staying very quiet on that, as she should. You know, that's a part of the investigation. So she definitely should. Yeah, allegedly, yes. Yeah. It would be hard to handle 2 kids, to hurt them. Yeah, well, possibly. It would depend, you know, if you know those kids. Jack seems to have been very quiet. So I don't even want to, I honestly don't even want to think about how, you know, maybe when we know more information, and if that is the case, we can get into those conversations. But you would have to know the kids really well to be able to decide how you were going to do something like that, right? Yeah. Oh, it just makes me sick to think of that, eh? Terrible. Okay. So now I think we're going to go over to the text messages. Everybody ready for that? Yeah, we'll go over those ones first. I was trying to decide which ones to go over first. And I think we'll just go back a little bit. I didn't mean to be. No, I know these. No, listen, Kimmer, I think the same things. I do. I just don't think we're ready to go there yet, until we know that, you know, if that is the case. You know, I would definitely be open to going there then. But the only thing I can think of, like I said, you'd really have to know the kids and what they're like, and, you know, and I mean, these things have already happened. We know that, you know, there's other situations where those things have happened, and the other parent was right in the house while the other parent did that. So it happens. Yeah. Okay, so these are the ones going way back, from It's a Crime and Shame, when Daniel first started talking with them. So Daniel says, I told investigators to polygraph her family, and they are. Have you mentioned this to the police? And he says, I work with detectives. Now, does anybody find that unusual? It, like, Daniel seems to wear a lot of hats. He's, you know, the detective. He's the doctor. He's got Malehya diagnosed. He's a fisherman. We know that. He can wear that hat. But yeah, he's working with the detectives. he's a suspect, you know. If they're all suspects until they know what happened to these children. He does speak oddly, very oddly at times. Yeah. And that's where I find it gets confusing with him. And I do think there's probably an intellectual thing going on there with him. And, you know, but we know that in cases where people have done something wrong, they try very hard to stay close to the investigation as well. And Daniel certainly did that. Now, whether it's for that reason or not, we don't know. But what I do find odd is that once the investigators pulled away from him, which he stated himself in his interview, that he did not, that, you know, they were keeping in contact with him. He was calling them, and then they, you know, eventually just pulled away from him. Then he started coming to the true crime community. And then that's when he started the talking with the true crime community. And to me, in my opinion, I feel like it was another way for him to stay close to the investigation and what the true crime community's thoughts are, you know. It's a Criming Shame and Dolly, who have worked on a lot of cases up to this point. Anyways, that's just my thoughts on it, because he wasn't doing that until the RCMP kind of pulled back from him, and then that started. So that's why, okay, so he says, I work with detectives, and this is with Shar from It's a Criming Shame. So Shar says, oh, okay, sorry. And he says, that's why this can't get out. And again, it's that tug and pull with him, which I find, you know, I said it in a couple of videos ago. I think it was a couple of videos ago, because I've read so much up on people who are trying to manipulate you or con you, and that they'll do that. You know, it's the pull and the tug and the up and the down and the friendly and aggressive, and you know, and it just gets your head kind of swirling. But yeah, so and he's constantly saying this, that I shouldn't be saying this, it's going to get me in trouble, this can't get out, keep this a secret. Like he's doing you some favor by telling you this, but yeah, anyways, it's just odd. If it does, then I lose my in with the investigators. And I'm sorry for laughing at it, but and then she says, what about Hayden, which is Malehya's brother? What about Hayden? I'm not sure on that one. I'd watch out. He used to be close to Malehya. Yeah, so you better watch out for Malehya's brother, because he used to be close to her. So, you know, like, none of it makes any sense. Why no media standing up for Jack and Lily? Even the natives pulled back and don't want involvement. And he says, an interview yesterday. I had an interview yesterday, I think it says. Yeah, and then she says CBC, right? And then he says yes. And she says, yeah, I just did wait now, am I getting mixed up? Which one's her and which mine is out on Wednesday? Yeah, I just did an on-set interview that was over an hour long with cameraman, producers, and interviewers. It's out Tuesday, CBC National. Mine is out on Wednesday. I think after that, is he talking to Shar here, or is he talking to Belynda? Daniel. It might be Belynda he's talking to. I think after that comes out to the world will turn on Malehya. I think after that one comes out, the world will turn on Malehya. And why he would want the world to turn on her, I don't know. But he's really trying hard. Okay, so Daniel, Malehya didn't want to be anywhere Malehya didn't want to be anywhere near Cody. She was afraid to even drive anywhere close, even. And now we know that's not true, because she had already confided in Belynda before any of this had happened that it was Daniel that didn't want her to go there, and that he was being controlling about it, and he was saying that he thought she was just going there to see Cody. Yeah, and that was before any of this had happened. So don't worry, I have a guy on the inside. Oh my. She was afraid to even drive anywhere close. Don't worry, I have a guy on the inside now. I can't say more than that, and I'm gonna assume that that's Darren that he's talking about. That's his inside guy. I can't say more than that, but evidence is mounting. So that, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's talking about Darren there, and all this evidence that is, I just completely counteracted all of it. The only problem is it's going to be hard for someone to give up the kid's location. The amount of jail time for this will be unheard of. And that's not true. Don't say anything to anyone about this conversation. So there, he's doing that again. I won't, but that doesn't make sense because Cody didn't live here. He was in Truro. He only moved back 10 months ago. She was afraid that she would be there and he would show up. I'm being honest. So Cher says, during that time, he even lived in Cape Breton. Yes, but look who Malehya something. Look who Malehya is. I think we fondly know that her and her family are a little crazy, and that doesn't even make sense. So Char's making sense because she's saying, like, Daniel, that doesn't make sense. He didn't even live near, where Belynda lived. He lived, there and there. And so then he goes on to say, look who Malehya is. Her family's crazy. Like, just actually, now going back and reading this again now, it just makes me even more so think that Daniel's done something here. Maybe more than a little. And Char says he had no interest in her or the kids, sadly. And Daniel says, I know, but Malehya's whole life has been nothing but negative. See, that what does that have to do with what Char is trying to get at? And she's making sense. She's asking, sensible questions that make sense. She found me and then she was happy. This really sounds that much more crazy now that I'm reading it again. Am I the only one? Are you guys feeling that? Like, it's just really bizarre. Malehya and her family. Okay, so you see her fighting not trust the word out of her mouth. You see her fighting for Jack and Lily. Oh, I think he meant, do you see her fighting? Her family has been saying effed up crap to CPS. That's why I can't see Meadow. Malehya and her family have done so much wrong, not to Jack and Lily, but to everyone else. That's none of it makes any sense. Nova, what do you hear from your community? What do most think happened? If you don't mind answering. Anybody that I've discussed it with, they think that Daniel did something. Yeah. They not at first. Like people at first were just kind of like, oh my God, I hope, the parents didn't do something, or one of them, or but now, like with Daniel behaving the way he's behaving, now people are just like, okay, like something's wrong here, and he's doing that to himself. And that's when I talked about the other case that we had here in Pictou County, Amber Kerwin, it was the same thing. That guy that was guilty, and they did finally arrest him, was the same thing, because he was doing the same thing, talking and talking and talking, and he had somebody else talking for him, just like Darren's doing. And then it just became very apparent, and then everybody was like, okay, like this guy did something, to this poor girl, and he did. So everybody's just kind of at that point now. It's like very, like, people just feel that it's pretty evident that there's something going on here with Daniel, and it's getting close to the time that, law enforcement has to be a little more aggressive with him, and because something's not right, with him and the family, like something's wrong. Nobody believes that she took them out nobody believes any of that. Like, nobody's even paying attention to that. They're just like, yeah, okay. Or that the Indigenous community would be doing stuff like that. Nobody believes that. That's foolish. Okay, he had no interest in her or the kids, sadly. I know, but okay. It breaks my heart. The last time she was here with the kids, she told us that you weren't happy about it. So we told her to bring you along if that would help. Okay, so this is with Belinda. It's not with Shar. My apologies, guys. Yeah, so she's calling Daniel out on that Malehya actually told Belinda the truth and said, the last time she was here with the kids, she told us that you weren't happy about it. So we told her to bring you along. And he says, do you think Malehya was a trustworthy person? Oh my goodness. I think Belinda knows Malehya better than Daniel. At this point, I would not trust a word out of her mouth. You see her fight. Do you see her fighting for Jack? Her family have been, okay, so I read that. Do you think Malehya was a trustworthy? Yeah. Malehya and her, yeah. So that is Belinda he's speaking to. I mean, for him to be even saying that stuff to Belinda, like, I think that's terrible. Yeah. I'm glad I went back and read these, because it just makes me think even more so that there's just something not right going on here with Daniel. They are giving you supervised visits though now. She never always spoke the truth, but I really thought she was a good mom. I don't know when that changed. And I wonder what Belinda means by that. She never always spoke the truth. Like, what incidences were what took place there that gave her that impression. I raised Jack and Lily, and this is Daniel saying this. I raised Jack and Lily. I potty trained them. I played outside with them. I taught the kids how to zipper their coats. I did it all. She played on her phone all day. She doesn't know how to raise kids. Huh. The kids used to hit and bite her and scratch her. She had no control over them. And Belynda says, well, that part sounds about right. I can see the kids acting out on her. I know a lot of moms who let their kids get away with too much. And I think too, you have to remember that these kids who were around their father and now they've separated and now they're not around their father, kids go through stuff. I had 2 kids that went through a separation, and it does affect kids. I put my kids in a little group. Now, granted, her kids would have been younger, 1 and 3, but still, they are going to go through something. I mean, by the age of 1, you're very well aware of those in your household and who you're seeing every day, and now who you're not seeing and who's not interacting with you. And you do know there's something wrong. So yeah, I put my kids in a little group that they had at their school for kids who were going through separation. Their parents were being separated, which was kind of cool to have in the school. So yeah, so I mean, I imagine some of their behaviors probably get even somewhat worse. And he says, no, she had zero control over them. I raised Lily and Jack, he says again. They just see her as the girl that makes food for them. And I just don't believe any of that, in my opinion. I know that sounds bad, but yeah, I know that sounds bad, but I'm being honest. I don't lie. So he has to keep saying how honest he is and he doesn't lie, but now we actually know that he does. And for someone to actually say, I don't lie, I am so honest, and then to actually turn around and turn out to be so untruthful. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody ever tell so many lies. It hurts when I tell the truth, but I can't lie because that's all the world is nowadays. People just judge me all they want, but I just like being honest. That seems very far-fetched to the car story. Oh, yes, I agree. The Indigenous wouldn't hide missing kids. Oh, absolutely, Holly. No, for sure they would not. Like that, and that's so insulting to that community. It just reminds me, I mean, I'm 53, and way back when I was a kid, and there, was more racism and lack of understanding, and it reminds me of that old way of talking, of looking at another, uh, another culture, and like that's so old. Like it just, I think it's so disgusting. Yes, he does lie, definitely. He's been proven to be that for sure. So there's just one more, and then we're gonna go to Dolly's. He never wanted me. Oh, that's Malehya when she's saying he never wanted me, and she's saying to Belynda, he never wanted me to go, and I never knew why he was controlling. And Belynda says, why didn't you give us your address? We would have gladly come for visits. And she says, he never wanted me to give it. I never wanted to stay there. I really wish, and Belynda says, I really wish you would have reached out, we would have done what we could do. Yeah. So maybe what I'll do is pull up the other ones between her and Malehya first, and then we'll go over to Dolly's, because we may as well finish going through Belynda'S and Malehya'S. Okay, so this is Belynda and Malehya, and again, credit to It's a Crime and Shame. Okay, so Belynda says, do you believe in your heart that Daniel could have hurt them? And Malehya says, I don't know, but he's been acting suspicious and is too worried about what people think about him and not focus on my kids at all. Now, I know people took the, took that and ran with it, or were insulted by it, slighted. But again, my thoughts are the same as, and I should have time-stamped that one as well, because Belynda talked about that as well, and it was the very same thought that I had, that she wasn't meaning that, he should be out there looking for her children. I took it as what we've all been saying, is that he's saying he's looking for the kids. He keeps saying that, and he goes on the news and he's saying, I'm the one going on the news. I'm the one doing this. I'm the one. But he's not really focused on the children. Saying it and doing it are two different things. And I feel like that's what she was trying to say there. Like, he's not really doing what he's saying he's doing, is what I took out of that. And we were already seeing that ourselves, that he talks about him. It's Daniel, 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 Daniel. And, he had to do this and he did that, and he could have got hurt, and he could have been impaled and slipped on a rock and got hit with a stick. And, I feel like that's where she was coming from, in my opinion. And Belynda stated that as well, that that's what she took out of that. And I have to agree with her. Yeah, so everything he's doing is odd, and it is odd. All the stuff that he's saying, you know, like I said, saying something and doing something are two different things. So you can't say that you'll look for these children for the rest of your life. Oh, well, why don't you go down to the reservation and have a conversation with them down there if you believe they're there? Oh my God, I can't go down there. I'll get hurt. Please. So then you won't look for them for the rest of your life. And you're going to insult the Indigenous people and say something like that, is just ridiculous. Everything he's doing is odd, and the police advised him to stay away from the media, to stop contacting me, and he still tries to. Which, I mean, that's harassment. Which I'm sure they probably told him to stop. I think when they told him to stop saying the things he was saying to the media, they probably told him then to stop trying to contact her. Possibly, who knows? Yeah, so they told him, oh, okay. And he still tried to stop contacting me. Oh, okay. So yeah, they did tell him to stop contacting. And he's also tried to steal my money from my account through Temu, which I believe her, because I was in a relationship like this before, and believe me, they want all your money. So if it's the type of relationship that I'm kind of getting the idea of, that it was, then yep. And that's fraud. If anyone followed the Gabby Petito, he did the same thing. And he was charged with fraud. And that's why I wish, if the RCMP do think Daniel had something to do with this, that they would start using something like that to be able to pull him in and do something. If that's where this is all going. I mean, maybe it's not. This is just in my opinion. So he was trying to use her card through Timo. Well, I guess he didn't get to use it. He tried to steal the money. So something happened that he couldn't get through account through my Temu. My card was attached to his account. So everything is not right. My main focus right now is to protect Meadow and find my kids. So that's why I'm thinking when she says the CPS thing, she's talking about the fact that Daniel's going to be able to see Meadow. And I had talked about this and kind of compared it to the Susan, oh my goodness, Powell, if you guys are familiar with that case, because even though their father, Josh, was suspected of unaliving the mother, and, being, there was, that there was DV going on, and there was something wrong with that father, he was still given visitation, and they were the same as Daniel's. Somebody had to be there. And even still, he was able to quickly get the kids in the house and unalive them and blow that house up with the CPS worker outside of the house trying to call the police to come and save those kids. And it didn't work out, unfortunately. But I feel like that's where her thoughts are, which I can't imagine. Like, if you're feeling like you can't trust this man and he may have done something to your kids, and now here he's going to have supervised visitation with the baby, because anything can happen. So Daniel has been saying to YouTubers that he believes you had the kids taken that morning, and he woke up when you came back to bed. I forgot that he even said that. And then he told a different story on the news, because he actually said that he woke up and he said to Malehya, "Do you hear the kids?" But it's actually her that said that in the beginning. And I had already pointed out that Daniel takes what other people are saying and makes it his own. And that's exactly, in my opinion, what he did. But I don't believe that at all, that she woke him up when he came back to bed. And according to Janie, he woke up at 6:15 when she was out there putting the kids in a car. So they've got so many stories going now. It's ridiculous. Like, I just feel like with the RCMP, it's time to haul somebody's butt into a room and start doing some more questioning. Let him say what Malehya says. Let him say whatever he wants. I can't say anything to anyone anymore. Your lawyer can speak on your behalf. And she says, yes. So Daniel is putting all eyes on you. And Malehya says, it seems like it, but I'm not following the media. I've asked. Oh, seems like it, but I'm not following the media. I've asked people to respectfully not send things to me, and if they feel it is of concern, to send it to the police. And Belynda says, good advice, and that's true. I agree. The truth always comes out, Malehya says. I'm not so sure anymore, Belynda says with a sad face. It's so sad. That morning, and he woke you up. Okay, your grandmother's cousin has been thinking the same thing. he too has been on social media. Who are you protecting Meadow from? And she says, oh my F about Darren. I can't even listen to that. I've heard all this. And then that's where she says she's protecting Meadow from CPS. But I agree with Belinda that it's more likely that she's it's because the only connection that Daniel has to see Meadow is through CPS. So the other thing I want to point out with that is that, you know, he keeps saying he's got her diagnosed with postpartum depression, you know, when he wears his doctor's hat, and that you know, that she's crazy like her family, and she's got postpartum depression. But when I read that the very first time, I was like, this does not sound like a woman who, I mean, I'm sure she's going through issues due to what's going on, obviously, with Lily and Jack, but she does not sound like she's out of her mind. She actually sounds like she's making sense. She's, you know, trying to protect Meadow. She's asking people not to inform her of any of this crap going on. She's saying, you know, Daniel's not behaving normally, which we can all see that ourselves. Like, she actually sounds like she's as put together as best as she can be in this situation. She certainly doesn't sound like what he's describing. There must be a reason he is not welcome on the reserve then. No, there's no reason. He's saying that because he's making it sound like, you know, that because if the children are hidden there because she had to get out of there because he was being abusive, that, you know, the moment he goes on that reserve, they're going to attack him. Well, that's just ridiculous. There's no, they would not do that. It's not like, it's the way it is around here. Like, you have to kind of be from here to understand the mentality, not mine, because I go down to the reserve all the time. I know what the people at the reservation are like, and they're you know, it's just it's discrimination is what it is. It's discrimination. It's just the thinking, but I thought that was long gone, that kind of thinking that oh, don't go on the reserve, the nanos will get you, or no, and especially that reservation, because that's there's the Mountie barracks right on it. There is on ours here too, but there's not always the Mountie there. But on the Shubenacadie one, like, that's a bigger reservation. There's a Mountie barracks on it. It's not known for, you know, violence, or, you know, it's like there's nobody's going to hurt him if he went on the reservation. That's just old thinking. I mean, to still hear somebody talk like that around here, to me, I would think they'd be like in their maybe 70 and above, older. Because after that, you know, people became more educated and less discriminatory towards other cultures, and but it's I guess still a mentality around here. Anybody else think maybe Justin had a hand in what happened, or even guilty knowledge? Yeah, possible. Yeah, and the mom, there's something going on there. I mean, I do not believe that the mom, that she heard all this shh, and the kids out there at 6:15 in the morning, and then she got up and went out, and Malehya said, "Oh, they're in the woods." No, I really don't believe any of that. In my opinion, I honestly don't believe that. I think she went out to the end of the driveway to get service to call them in sick to school. And then she went back in the house and she dozed off then, or she was up until 8:30 or whatever. She says the timeline there that she heard them between 8:30, and she dozed off back to sleep. Yeah. Possible. Yep. That is terrible about Susan Powell, her father. I know. The two of them, ugh, so gross, creepy, eh? Ugh. And did he end up going to prison because they found some pretty nasty stuff on his computer and pictures he took of her too that he shouldn't have taken. Yeah, if I remember correctly, he went to prison, I think. Yes, I noticed that he said the opposite a few times. Yes. Yeah. And describes how long and when he searched. Yes. Oh, yes. Very detailed. I always thought it was strange that he said he immediately went down the dirt roads and checked all the culverts. I think the kids had wandered before and were found in the culverts. Yeah, you wonder, eh? Because the culverts are kind of weird. I thought that too when I heard that. I was like, well, why would you be looking in culverts? Like, what kids usually go down into culverts? But then maybe they have, right? Or maybe he took them for walks and they did a venture down into there. So who knows? Scooter Mama, welcome back. Darn it, I'll have to replay. Yeah, you will, because I went through a timeline there to point some stuff out. I was modding and didn't know you were live. No problem. Hi, Mark. Welcome back. We have a reserve too, but they expect respect, rightfully so. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. I love our reservation here. My husband and I go there usually once a week because that's where you go to buy your e-cig products. And I love going for the drive. So whenever he goes, I'll say, "Oh, I want to come with you," because it's a beautiful drive down there, and the reserve is beautiful, and there's the ocean right by it, and one of the shops that you go to get the e-cig, they actually have a restaurant there too. You can buy food, and I mean, we interact, with the indigenous on the reserve here all the time. Like they're people. They're people just like the rest of us. So to talk like, I can't go in that territory. They're going to come after me. And I kind of cracked a joke in my last video that, this isn't the cowboy and Indian days, Daniel, like, for God's sakes, get with the times. In the Susan Powell case. Yeah, that was terrible. And like that angered me just to know that he was given rights to see those children, even though they were the CPS worker was there to supervise. And I mean, if somebody's going to do something, they're going to figure out a way to do it. And he did. Just disgusting. Yeah. Oh, I knew who you meant. Yeah, the father-in-law and brother. The father-in-law and brother and husband. Oh, really? I did not know that. I thought he went to prison. Okay. Ugh. Like, man, they were just a gross family. That poor woman. And I mean, and then she was obviously going to try to get out of there, right? Out of that relationship. Just disgusting. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the stuff that Daniel had said on Dolly. And so we already went over some of it in my last video, but the stuff that I actually really wanted to show, we didn't get to. So I cropped all that, and we're actually going to look at the actual conversation. Yes, he did. But I think in prison, oh yeah, he unalived himself. Well, can you imagine the miserable life that he would have had in prison? Just disgusting. Okay. Yeah, so I'll go back to the other email there. Okay, and these are in no particular order, and it doesn't really matter. It's just what he's saying in them that I really want to pull out of it. Oh, that's so blurry. I'm going to read it anyways, but and I can't make it bigger because it's in my mail. No, I can't make it bigger. Okay. I'm even going to have to get my glasses on and lean ahead to read it. Something because they wouldn't just do that any other way now. Okay. No supervised visitation rights. Accusing you of something. Thanks for answering, Daniel. Okay, I have to read through it to figure out where Daniel's answer is. Okay, because they wouldn't just do that any other way. Now, if he was charged with something, of course they would. Supervised visitations. But I knew it had to be a situation where they were accusing you of something. Okay, so that is talking about, I'll actually go to the one before that. So when they found these things, yeah, animals, that's strange. So Daniel says, so he talks about the 2 sweaters. Yes, she took 2 sweaters. He says sweaters, but then I guess it changed from sweaters to shirts. It doesn't really matter. Shirts, t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, whatever it was. But yeah, he's talking about her taking his 2 piece, the shirts, we'll call them. And he states that he had worn them the night before or the night of, and I don't know if he means like it was a shirt that he had slept in, and then it was the shirt he had on when he first went out to search for the children. And because he would have gotten wet, according to him. So then he would have had to have changed to another shirt because he says in the morning of. And so my question is, do you think Malehya is the one who took those, or do you think RCMP has them? Because to me, it would make more sense. As soon as I heard him say that, I thought, oh, that's because he had already said it prior to this. And I thought, when I first heard it, I thought, well, that's because the RCMP would want those for evidence if because everybody's a suspect, and they would want his clothing to know if there's anything on them. And they perhaps took them themselves during their search of the home. But the thing is, Malehya would have to be the one to say that those are the 2 shirts he wore right there. And that they took them, or that she did point them out or was able to give them to them and say, these are the shirts. Which again, would those things, if those things were taking place, that would really, those things would be putting her light bulb off that, something's wrong here. But anyways, that was just my thoughts on that, the whole t-shirt, or the whole shirt thing. And then does he say anything here? And then he talks again about the birth certificates. I don't think it's in that one. I think it's in another one. He talks about the blanket. And he's saying about how the blanket was found, and that it was found, and it's a part of the blanket, not the whole blanket. And that it was found in the tree, and the boot print, and that it was her family that found it. Now that's him saying that. And then Dolly asks him, well, do you think they're going to set you up? Oh, and sorry, back to the shirts. One of the things he said there about the shirts too is that he said, you watch if they find the kids and those t-shirts will be with them. And that really just floored me. When he said that, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And that to me is all leakage. It's like, okay, are the t-shirts with the kids? So yeah, I had the 2 thoughts, that one or the other, that okay, the t-shirts are with the kids and that was some leakage, or Malehya did give them to the RCMP as part of some evidence, because they did have warrants for the trailer. No matter what, if they had the warrants when they searched or not, they would still get a warrant even if they were given permission to go in, so that if things had to be used in court, they did things properly, right? So yeah, and then he's talking about the blanket and the boots here, and basically he's telling Dolly that they're, like Dolly said, do you think they're setting you up type thing? And he's saying, yeah, that he feels that her family's setting him up. When they find these things, what did they start accusing you of immediately? Like, how did they blame you? That's the better question. The kids, how old? Because in the blanket now, I do know you said, okay, well, that's just what I already told you there about the blanket. Okay, yeah, he says, yes, 2 sweaters. What type of sweaters? Dolly wants to know what type of sweaters. Who cares? Okay, so he says, like, I wear them all the time. No, sorry, that's not him saying that. Okay, so now he's talking about the status here, and he's saying with status that she can get across the border, because where the kids were granted status, that she can just get across the border now. You don't need anything else. And that's not true. That is not true. That's ridiculous. Maybe back in the day, but not now. Okay, that's the with status part. Okay, so then he's saying here again about all she asked for were the kids' birth certificates, school pics, and 2 stuffed animals. That's all. everything Malehya owns is still here. And again, to me, that is like when I read that, my first thoughts were, well, that's a keepsake box, because those are that's all she has left of her children. And she doesn't know if they're here on Earth or not. And then he says everything of hers is still there. Well, I mean, it shows me that she's certainly not focused on herself. She doesn't care about her stuff, but she cares about those last little bit of things that are her children's. I'll just come back over to the chat for a little bit, guys, because I can't see the chat when I'm reading those. We have, where's there, for the father-in-law? Yeah. Yes, he did, but I think he was, yeah. Hi, Mark. Hi, Sharon Parker. Thank you for being here. Kimmer, maybe the shirts are the kids. No, they're his. They're his. He said they're his shirts. He said all she took was my 2 shirts, 2 of my shirts, and that he said that they were the shirts that he wore. One he wore the night of, is how he puts it. He didn't say the night before. He said the night of, and the morning of. So that's why I kind of thought, well, maybe it's the shirt, because you know how guys just sleep in a t-shirt, or no shirt, but like a lot of guys will just sleep in a t-shirt. So I was thinking, well, it would be the shirt that he probably woke up in, would be why he's saying the night of. And then later on, he would have changed into another shirt. And he said one is white and one is blue, I think he said. But I mean, so Malehya is going to leave all her stuff. She left without the stuff of her kids that she ended up asking for later, their birth certificates, their 2 stuffed favorite toys, and their pictures, their school picture. But the only thing she thought to take was Daniel's 2 t-shirts. Like, that just does not make sense. My common sense tells me, like, no. So either RCMP has them, or Daniel did use, they will be found with the kids, as he stated, in my opinion. I wonder if that is true about the whole status. The kids were refused status, yep, twice before, but given status right after they went missing. If it is true, I know one thing that I did hear, and I can't remember where I read it or heard it, or if it's even true, but it sounds like it makes sense, is that she was teaching the children the language and about the culture. So I was thinking, okay, well, she probably had to do that because in order for the kids to have status, they would probably want them to have a certain amount of knowledge of the culture and the language, right? And then, and just spend time on the reserve, like, you know what I mean? You just can't say, I want my kids to have status and that's tickety boo. Like, there's probably things that they said, well, can you teach them some of the language, spend some time on the reservation with them, and so maybe that's what was going on there. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. I have Native ancestry, but that's about it. And I don't know, but I did read or listen to that on a podcast or something, and I'm not sure. That's just where my thoughts went, that, oh, well, that kind of makes sense, because that's probably in order for them to be accepted as status, right? Can anyone verify that story is true? That story. What story are we talking about? Probably something I said when I was reading there, but I read so much I can't remember. Mark says, hi, Sharon. And we all say, hi, Sharon. I meant with the kids. Sorry. I'm not sure what you mean. Probably because I just read so much that you answered. Okay. Yeah, you answered about the status. Okay. Yeah. So there's just a couple more things here in this. Yeah, so the stuffed animals and all that. And like I said, to me, that's sentimental stuff. I told you guys about my friend who lost her son, and she had his little box, and that's all the same stuff that he had in his, or she had in his box, plus some other stuff like his hockey jersey. And but those things right there were in that box, and she used to go through it every year on the anniversary of his death. Got to remember, yeah, you got to remember that she took 2 sweaters. She only asked for birth certificates and school pictures and 2 stuffed animals. That's all. You know, and I mean, I highly doubt it. So Malehya left after the fight, after the debrief. She couldn't look at him, Daniel's own words, and when she did, it was with disgust. She couldn't even hold a look on his face, like keep her eyes on his face. So you think she's gonna go back and grab 2 of his sweaters before she takes off, or 2 of his shirts? I don't think so. And he said that happened while he was alone at the debrief, and he says so he knows that's why Malehya took them. Well, no, I think they made sure he was at the debrief, and then they were at the house, and she was able to probably point out to the RCMP that, yeah, those are the 2 shirts right there, or yeah, something along those lines, in my opinion. Yeah. But Daniel is trying to push a narrative that this is, you know, to get the pictures and the birth certificates are for her to be able to do up passports, that he also says in the other breath that that they don't need them because they're native. So he says one thing in one hand and then something else in the other, right? They don't need passports, but yet she took those pictures and their birth certificates to have passports done. So, and I think that's it out of these. Yeah, and then he said he's tired and he's going to bed. Oh, right. One of the last things he had said was that he said me and Meadow will visit her in prison. And that's awful. I don't think she's the one that's going to prison. Yeah. So that's it for that. The other one that I wanted to talk about with him, oh my gosh, I just had it in my brain and now it escaped me. There was some text that he was doing on Facebook. Did any of you guys hear about that? Or I can't remember if Sonny had those on It's a Crime and Shame or not. But there was something he said in one of those that was really strange too. I just remembered it, but now it's gone. Mark says, hi, Kimmer. And Sharon says, oh. And Sharon says, hi, Kimmer. I know things take time for arrest, but the RCMP must not have been able to I think you mean find anything concrete, or there would have been an arrest early on. Oh yeah, I think so too. And plus they had to put the reward out, right? And once that's offered, then you're kind of, you kind of go, oh, because then you're thinking they don't have that solid evidence that they need, right? So, and then you start worrying that, is this case going to go cold? That's when I started thinking that is this going to go cold? Actually, I started thinking it before the reward come out. I started worrying that this was going to go cold. Yeah, I knew what you meant. I wish I could remember there's something he said on Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that. And I can't remember what it is. And I thought I just a second, because I think I have them on my phone. I just don't think I sent them to my email yet, because I knew I wouldn't have time to go over everything. Oh, yes, here it is. Can you please tell us, Daniel, what you believe Lily and Jack were wearing? And this is where he answers the question. They ask him about the shirts that he says Malehya took. And his answer back is, I wore both during the search. Navy blue one first night and white one second day. So that's where he says that. Sorry, I thought it said the night of. And then they asked him, can you please tell us, Daniel, what Jack and Lily were wearing? Now, mind you, this is a missing children investigation it started out as. And everyone is told, pink top for Lily. Oh gosh, I'm going to get mixed up what her and Claire Bell had on. I can't remember everything with Lily now, if it was pink top, pink pants, because I know Claire Bell had, I think one of them had beige pants on. I can't remember. And the baby, they just said he had a pull-up on and rubber boots at first, right? And then it changed to possibly a brown t-shirt and brown pants or something dark. And then, so now he's saying that that's not what they had on, and that I can't tell you because it's part of the investigation, but it's not what we all think they had on. Like, who messes around with that? If somebody's missing, you don't put out wrong information and say this is what they were wearing. Nova, have you heard any rumors or speculations in your county that there will be an arrest soon? I haven't, no, but I'm just getting a feeling that something, I feel like, just because of the other case that had happened here. I don't know if you heard me talk about it, Amber Kerwin, and it was very similar in the way that the guy that had abducted this girl and unalived her also had somebody like Darren, but she was female, who was doing the same thing that Darren is doing, coming out and speaking on this individual's behalf. His name was Chris Faulkner. And people were starting to put everything together. Like, people were really starting to see the lies and the change in the story and the inconsistency. And it was the same thing. They were trying to blame her boyfriend and point fingers at the boyfriend and coming up with these crazy stories. And you had some people who were believing it, but most people saying, no, it's absurd. And people were starting to get upset because it was very evident to most of us that it was this Chris Faulkner, and why is he still walking around and he's not being arrested? He's not being pulled in for questioning. Like, what is going on here? And so people started to shoot off, like on Facebook, on this group where these people were, this girl was sticking up for him and they were kind of blaming the boyfriend. And it was the same thing that's going on now, except it was just on Facebook because YouTube didn't really have all this then. And people started getting irritated and saying like, because we all knew the police were watching this site, as they do. So then people would go on there and say, we know you're watching, like, could you please arrest this guy? Like, that you're letting this guy walk around in our community and it's pretty obvious that he's done, And so then once people started kind of getting upset in the community and speaking out, then they did arrest him. And thank God when they arrested him, they found a pow knife. I'll say it wrong due to YouTube, and rugs. They found everything in his vehicle, and he was just out of prison, I think, for 6 months anyways, on probation. So they were able to get him behind bars and then continue on with the investigation. So, and they did find her and found all the evidence and were able to convict him. But it was kind of getting to the point where it's getting now with the same ID with Daniel, and it's very evident the lies and the contradictions and stuff just not making sense, and the story changing, and then having people starting to stick up for him, and now we're getting to the point where people are just kind of getting a little irritated, like, this is pretty obvious something's wrong here. Why is this not moving into the next phase of whatever phase it has to move into? So that's where people are now, and people do not believe that that these children were that Malehya put them in a car and sent them off to a reservation. People do not believe that. Not anybody I've spoken with, nobody believes that. They believe that there's something wrong in the story that Daniel's telling and his family, and it's just not all adding up. Yeah. Yes, you heard that too. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where things are now, amongst the people I speak with. And I mean, I think they're all kind of have common sense, and none of them are whacked out on drugs or anything like that, or not saying that the people speaking out, like Darewood or anybody is, I don't know, if that's the case, but just I mean, they're pretty common sense people. The people that I speak amongst were all nurses, so and then my family, and pretty much everybody's feeling the same way. Something fishy's going on here with Daniel and his family and the stories that are being told. And I was saying earlier in the chat when I first come on, for you guys that came in later, I had talked about the harassment, and that should not be going on. Even if somebody is found to have done something wrong, although in a case like that, I could kind of go, well, I can see why they'd be going by your house doing that. It just shouldn't happen. People are going to have their day in court if anything has taken place here that's not, correct, and or that's wrong, nefarious, and they're going to have their day in court. And you can go down the courthouse on that day and stand outside and do what they did to Chris Faulkner. You can scream and yell at them then. Everybody did that to him, and he deserved it. So, but I'm going to say goodbye, guys. I know I said I'd go over their interviews as both of their first interviews, but we're out of time, and I just thought it would be neat to go back and listen to it. We listened to Malehya'S very first one on the last live. I just thought it'd be interesting to go over his again, and hers, both of them back to back. But maybe we'll do that on the next live, because it's kind of interesting to go back and kind of review the early stuff, just like reading those early texts there, the first texts that It's a Crime and Shame, Sonny and Cher had done with Daniel, like going back again and reading them now. I'm just thinking, oh my, I always thought it was ridiculous, but even more so now, I feel even more suspicious of Daniel. So you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. I hope you go live right. Live. Funny, you can read that either way. I hope you go live right away if you hear. Oh, absolutely. I'm checking all the time. I 100% will. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I don't do the Facebook thing, but my sister does. And if she sees anything on there that she knows is, she knows that I would want to know, she sends it to me. So, thank you, Nova. Bye for now, everyone. Yep. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you wish to subscribe, and share if you wish. But please hit the like if you click on the video. Please hit the like, because it helps to keep it in the algorithm and to spread this information. Yeah, and we want that for Jack and Lily. Lily and Jack Sullivan. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Take care. Lots of love, lots of positive vibes. Here comes the cutie pie. Here he comes. He's so cute.